Yeah. I'm gonna just text with people. They'll let us know if they can hear us. If you guys can hear us, let us know. You're all start singing now, eh? Hello, hello. Test, test. Can you hear? Oh, they can hear. Renee Gatewood said she can hear. Really? Okay. If you
Hello?
can hear Kelsey, let us know in the comments.
I think you guys can hear me now, right? Yes? Is it working?
Yes, they can hear us now.
All right. I have like three different mics and I'm not sure which one's connected to whatever. So,
All right, cool.
all right,
Well,
awesome.
thank you guys for joining us for our live session. This is the first time we're doing this, so thank you for being patient these first few minutes as we get our audio situated or the audio fixed and outgoing. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, sure. Are we going to begin the same way?
Yeah. Ready? One, two, three. No. There's no way.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first live stream Navajo Tea Time. And our topic today is like reviewing the Navajo Nation elections and the midterm elections, I think is what they're called. Yeah.
So
So,
we yeah, so we have a few things we have the presidential outcome, the council delegate outcomes, and then we are going to answer a couple of questions. The first question is, how did you decide which candidates to vote for? The second question is, what qualities do you look for in a Netani or a leader? And then the third question is, how do you feel about the Navajo Nation electing its first ever female vice president? And the fourth question, the final question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how happy are you that election season is over and why? So that's what our conversation is going to be today. Thank you guys all for joining us live. Um, it's really a big part of that has to do with our subscribers. Because we were able to exceed 500 subscribers, we can now do community posts. So we can go live, we can do things like this, and the capabilities now are much greater. So at the end of this, or at the end of before we end the live stream, we're going to announce our winners as well, right, Kelsey?
yeah, that's the plan. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was just copy pasting the question. So if anyone wants to answer the questions, they can answer the questions themselves if they want to be part of the conversation.
Okay, cool. I like that. All right, so do you want me to just kind of let's begin with the outcomes, okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this past Tuesday was election day. Election day all across the United States, but on the Navajo Nation, um, the presidential election and the elections for council delegates and others running for different seats across the Navajo Nation, that was ongoing. And so the two candidates, we had our incumbent who was Jonathan Nez. His running partner was Mr. Abeda, and the people running against them were Boo Van Nigren and Rochelle Montoya. And so the big news from this election are that Boo Nigren had ousted Jonathan Nez as president for the Navajo Nation. And this is a pretty big deal because Buvan Nigren is relatively young. I think he's going to be one of the youngest presidents to ever take the seat. And Rochelle Montoya is going to be our first ever female president. So it's a pretty big deal. Jonathan Nez and Chata Beta were, they did an amazing job during the primary election. They won by a landslide. But after Boo had taken on, but after he had been the second, I guess the second winner of the primary election, he and his campaign did a lot of work to get the support of people who had voted for other candidates. And by election day, he successfully gained the support of many of the candidates who had run during the primary who didn't proceed to the general election, which I think is a really big accomplishment. I haven't seen that before at all in my lifetime, where the candidate had received endorsements from other people who had been running for the presidential seat. So that was pretty cool. 65,637 Diné people casted ballots on election day, which is it's over 20,000 more than had voted before previously, which is a big deal. Also, the number of people who had voted in past elections was much less. So the turnout this year was great. And I've been like giving shout outs to people all over like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, just being like, congratulating the Diné people who had shown up to vote because it's a really big deal. We have a huge population of people. There are over 400,000 people registered as Diné. We do have a relatively young population. So there's a good percentage that are not eligible to vote just because they're not 18 yet. However, um, if you look at the number of people that voted compared to the people that are eligible to vote, it's a big difference. So the more people that turn out, the better. 34,568 people voted for Nigrin and Montoya, and 31,068 people voted for Nezabeta. So
It was really
those,
close.
yeah, it was super close. Oh my goodness. Did you watch an election night, Kelsey?
Um, no,
Just kidding.
it's not permanent, and I don't know how well it does on stigmatisms, but yeah.
Mhm.
So after we voted, we went to Flag and got her glasses, and then she spent some time with her grandma and her aunt before they went back down to Tucson. So when I got back home, I'm
Mm,
like, I'm tired. You know, it,
mhm.
I'm sure Adrian will post something about
Yeah.
elections.
I was up all night. I was up until the last chapter reported, which was Alamo. They didn't report till like past midnight. Oh my gosh. But anyways, so my husband and I were actually thinking of going out to Winter Rock to kind of check out both camps and, hang out and congratulate the winner and console the person who lost because we didn't know who was going to win. And but we know, we know those that were running, and we know a lot of the people who were supporting them in their campaigns. So, just to be cool like that. But it was cold, and there was a big cold front coming in, and it was snowing, and here at least. And so I got home, and there was a fire going, and there was dinner made, and I was like, I want to stay home. So we listened to KGAK out of Gallup, and also Marley Shabala, she was live on Facebook, but she was at the sports center. So she was seeing that the numbers as they were coming in, she was reporting them. But her connection there in Windrock, as we all know, is really choppy. Like during the primaries, it was so choppy. It was really hard to follow online. So we were listening to the radio, and it was pretty much all in Navajo. Like 90% of it was in Navajo. And so my husband was like, I don't know what's going on. And so I was telling him, who was reporting, or who was which chapters were reporting, and who the winners were, And so he was like, after a while he was like, oh, okay. He started to hear the pattern. And
Mhm.
so we're listening all night, and we're getting really excited because a couple of the candidates who we supported personally, their races are pretty close, and we had been, contributing to different campaigns and supporting our friends. And so, we're like, there was a good number of them that we were excited about. And so as we're hearing as the different chapters are reporting, like we're getting really excited when some of them won their races, and we were sending out congratulations. And it was just a really exciting night. But I think Patrick Sandoval had called it about close to when the 100th chapter had reported. So I think it was around between 10:30 and 11 he called it. And he was like, I think we're going to win. And this is for the Nigerian campaign, the
Hmm.
Nigerian Montoya campaign. And I was like, I want to stay up until the last one reports because I want that screenshot, and I want to post it online. So,
Yeah, I tried looking up places of like where they were reporting it, and
mhm,
I couldn't really find many. I found a
mhm,
couple of news websites, and I kind of just linked them into my little Cameron chapter information page. So if people
mhm,
really wanted to like look at it, they had a place to find it easier because it took me forever to find it.
mhm,
And so someone here in the chat, Internet Anonymous, said they didn't get to vote because they moved 100 miles away from their chapter house. And
mhm,
you can do mail in votes and absentee
mhm,
ballots for the next time because my grandma, she went down south for the winter to help recover from a surgery. So we signed her up for an absentee ballot and they sent her the ballots in the mail and you can just mail them in and vote that way. So
mhm.
it's an option for the next time.
Yeah, everyone, if you're not registered, or if you're one of the people who got your registration purged, right now would be a good time to make sure you're registered. So you go in, you register, get your blue card, you have that on hand, and then you can easily sign up for an absentee ballot. That way your voice is heard no matter where you're at in the country. So yeah, that's something that I encourage people to do, because I know that there's not a lot of people that can actually travel back to the res to vote at their chapter.
Hmm.
And for me, I had to go to two different chapters, even though they're located locally. I had to go to Likujigai to vote for the county elections, to vote for our state senators and representatives. And then I had to go to Wheat Bills to vote in the Navajo Nation election. So, even that, so they gave us 2 hours off on the day of. And so I did that, and I ate at both places.
I think I avoided that because like I definitely saw like my mom was like up at 7 in the morning. It's like let's go. I'm like, are they even open yet, Mom? Are you sure? Maybe they open at 8. And then we get there and she saw the sign. They opened at 6, Kelsey. I'm like, okay, Mom.
Hmm.
But I avoided like the breakfast places. I was like, I don't want because in Cameron it's a small community and it's very clear of like if you vote for this council delegate or if you're voting for this council delegate, it definitely draws a line with like
Hmm.
people you can work with politically or
Oh yeah,
in
you
the
have to be careful, huh?
yeah. So I'm like, we're gonna go to Cameron and eat breakfast. Thanks. Bye. Yeah.
There's a couple that I know. They were really big proponents during the Chris Deschini campaign back in the day, and they're very well versed when it comes to Navajo politics. And so election day is a big day. Like during the primary, they're like rolling like through all the different camps and like just checking on things. This year, they were hitting up all of the chapters, and they were like, the night before, they were all like, all right, everyone, eat really light because tomorrow you can hit up all the chapters and eat there. And they were doing that. And they were checking in at all the different chapters from Fort Defiance all the way to Shiprock. It was so funny. So yeah, some people do that. They like wear their sweatpants and they go eat at every stop.
I don't have the gas money to do that.
There were like some elders too that the man, the Hustine, he used to be a board member for where we work, and his wife, we saw them at the first chapter house we went to, and they said they were gonna do that. Like, we're gonna go to all the different chapter houses and just um get our stew and meet people, because I think for a lot of people too, it's kind of a good it's like it's a fun opportunity, to reconnect with your community, because sometimes you don't see people that often. And so it is really social, and it's a time to kind of chit chat and reconnect, and that was what our experience was like too. So it was actually really fun to meet up and see people again, because I think like because of the pandemic we haven't really been out and about as much as we used to. And so it was really cool to see people who we hadn't seen in quite a while. But yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so going back to the question,
Yes.
how did you decide on which candidate to vote for?
Wait, hold on. Let me report the council delegate outcomes real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
Okay, so 9 Diné were elected to sit on the 25th Navajo Nation Council. So for those who are watching, that's 9 of 24 seats, which amounts to 37%. So we have 37% representation starting in January. So I mean, this is a big deal in my opinion because if you look at the population statistics, there are more women within our population than men. And also, the lifespan of women is much longer than men, too. So, the fact that we have representation in our government is a big deal because we amount for the majority of the population. And a lot of their decisions are going to they're going to have that perspective. They're going to be able to create legislation on behalf of their communities, but also looking through that lens and coming from a matrilineal society. That's really important. And I bring that up only because there are some people that don't understand the difference between matrilineal and matriarchal. And matriarchal means that it's a women-led society, which we don't, that's not our society. Dinesh society has never been matriarchal. There's always been duality between man and woman. There's equality between the two. And that's representative in our sand paintings, in rugs, in our creation story. It goes all the way back to the beginning where the woman and the man, they move through life side by side as equals. And then if you look at the way the sky and Mother Earth come together, there neither one is trying to control or overpower the other. It's a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship. However, matrilineal means that it's in recognition of the bloodline. So in our society, we recognize our clan system, right? So is based on the clan system. Therefore, um, it's a recognition that that's how our society it functions. It goes through the women's line, and that's how the clans are determined, and that's how our identity is. Whereas in a patriarchal society or a patrilineal society, it would go through the man. And that's how it is in Western society, where people take on their father's last name and they track the lineage through the father, not the mother. So that's what makes us unique. So it really doesn't so much have anything to do with the dynamics of man versus woman or anything like that. It just means that the bloodline is recognized, that it goes through the woman, and that's how we track our clan system. So just to clarify, because I know there's some people that aren't really sure of that, but you can also Google it, or just look in the dictionary. Yeah, but that's a big deal, right? I'm excited about that. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was saying on Facebook that I would prefer 50-50%, you know what I mean? Like 50-50 representation, 12 seats, with men holding and 12 seats with women. That'd be like perfect. But of course, we don't live in this egalitarian society, but I think we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah. Okay, so shall we get to the questions? Are there any comments that we should
Um,
address real quick?
Someone said they voted no confidence, but they'll support our
Oh
new leader.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then the same person, native educator, said, "I know Lamb in Mimo, if that's who you're talking about."
Yeah, that's Lamb and Mem. Yeah, memory.
Yeah.
I know they're cool. Shout
Okay.
out to Lamb Memory.
Yeah, so let's go to the questions. Like, how did you
Okay,
decide to vote for the candidate?
I'll let you answer. I've been talking a lot.
So, my answer is like, I use my squiggly splooch, if you know, watch Invader Zim, like me. But, like, I kind of listened to how other people talked about the candidates, and if I was able to have the opportunity to speak to a candidate myself, I kind of listened to the way I felt about the words they use and some like I have it written out. I should just read it.
Yeah, read it. It's
Yeah,
okay.
so like for the Navajo Nation candidates, I definitely just went on like the feelings I got around the people. But for the state elections, I kind of feel like a lot of the Republicans have been acting a little psycho lately, and I voted Democrat on everything just cuz I wanted the Republicans to like cool off for a bit and reassess some of their messages and the way they, I don't know, are approaching some topics and things in administration. So that's how I voted. Like, I don't identify as Republican or Democrat because there's cons and pros and cons to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just recently in the past couple of years, I feel like a lot of the more outspoken radical Republicans, it's it feels very dangerous for me and my family if we vote that way. So I decided to just vote all Democrat this term. Um, but yeah, so like if I was had the opportunity to speak to some of the candidates, I kind of paid attention to how I felt around them and just kind of like the feelings and that you just develop over like judging people, I guess, in a way of like whether or not you feel like they're being truthful or they're just saying things you want to hear. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I went with that. But with like the Republicans and Democrats, I definitely looked it up, especially for the judges. I've been hearing some
Yeah,
really sus
especially.
things about like how like voting for local judges can definitely affect laws that are
Mm-hmm.
coming out. So if the judge is more Republican versus Democrat, that definitely skews what laws get passed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I did my voting. Just a feeling.
I see. Cool. Yeah, that's so like for my answer, so when it comes to the state elections, um I am a registered independent, and for the longest time, I thought that made me unique. But I found out this year that the majority of Arizona registered voters in Arizona are independent, and the number of people that are registered as Republican or Democrat actually aren't as great as I had previously thought. So that was really interesting. Um, but so what I did is I looked up the candidates. I was really happy to see three Diné who are running for a representative seat. So of course I voted for them. I'm always supportive of Diné representation or Native Indigenous representation on the ballot. So those people got my vote for sure. And then I did, go back and forth on the different candidates who are running for office and the propositions that were on the table. So and I make a choice on who to vote for is really based on what decisions they've supported in the past, how they voted in the past, and then how they live their lives, because I don't really believe in like I don't I guess the content of a person's character is not, to me, it's not determined by what they say, but what they do. So looking at what their past actions are is that's what helps me choose a candidate. So, people are going to tell you everything under the sun. They're going to try to tell you that the greatest person, they're the best suited, they're the best leader, they have the most experience. They'll all say the right things. They'll hit all the points, especially during an election season. But I look at what they've done in the past, and that's how I choose. So when it came to the Navajo Nation election, I truly believe that we're at a point where strong leadership is needed and necessary. And Boo Nygren, he brings with him a strong educational background, a strong wife, and a unique VP pick, which I do appreciate just because the Navajo people did speak when they voted during the primary in support of Diné leadership. And a lot of people expressed wanting a change, wanting representation. And this was all across the board over various demographics, from the young to the much older, like the elderly. And he he heard that, and he took it into serious consideration by choosing a female running mate, which I really did appreciate. um so I found myself thinking about how to choose how those factors or how those elements factor into their ability to lead the Navajo Nation. You know, education, BP pick, and who their, like their partner is even. And I know that, people say like, well, the partner isn't really important. They're not on the ticket or they're not, you know what I mean? But for me, I think it matters, the composition of a family or the values a person lives by. I think that does factor in. And I think it did this time. And the reason why is because that's what people were saying about some of the candidates during the primary. A lot of Navajo people were saying that, at least on social media, that that is something that matters. So instead of just applying it to the female candidates that were running, I figured, let's apply it to the male candidates. Let's be fair about this. So I took that
Yeah.
into
That was one
consideration.
of the questions we got, like when we were trying to organize, like, well, can we interview her husband and see how her husband feels about,
How
running
does
for
he feel
Navajo
about her?
president? It's like, has anyone
Mm-hmm.
asked the wife how the wife feels about them running for Navajo Nation president? I don't think
And
I've
no one
ever
ever does.
seen anyone ask
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, that was definitely.
Did she get his permission to run? I'm like, ew. First of all, just kidding.
We can't
So,
edit anything out,
so,
Adrian.
okay, I know, right? Okay, so I'll get back to it. So their training and educational journey affords them a unique skill set and perspective that we haven't seen before. And I'm really curious about how that will impact our stability and our sovereignty as a nation. And so you weigh the two candidates, like Boo Nygren, went to he went to ASU, he got his bachelor's, master's, and then he got his ED, which is an educational degree and an educational doctorate. And he went to a school in California. I think he went to USC and got that. And his wife, she went to Stanford University, and then she went got her JD at ASU, and I think it's from the Sandra Day O'Connor School of Law, and she recently passed the bar. So that's amazing. Like that's a huge accomplishment. And together, they are going to lead together in many ways because that's how a partnership works. And she's also a state representative right now. To me, that's meaningful. That matters. So I was thinking about that, and then you weigh that against the current president, Jonathan Nez, who personally I think he did the best he could under the circumstances that were presented to him, and I've said that publicly. I've said that to council delegates. I've said that to people of influence, and oftentimes they get mad at me for it. I don't agree, and I'm just like, well, we're all entitled to our own opinion, and that's how I view him. I think he did the best he could considering the conditions, and no other leader has had to lead during a pandemic. So it was a unique situation. And I just appreciated the transparency regarding our health, and I think he did his best to protect us. um and others might disagree, but I do appreciate that. But as far as his education's concerned, I believe he has a master's degree, and his wife, she recently got her master's degree this May. So that's good. But if you weigh the difference between a master's degree and a professional degree that's like a doctorate, it's different. You know what I mean? They're different. They're not the same. And so those experiences, the educational experience and the connections that come with that level of education, it's going to change the dynamics, and it's going to change a person's understanding of how they're going to lead and the skill set they're going to bring to the job. So those are some things I considered.
Okay, we have a
Um,
comment from native
okay.
educator again. It says, "I'm leery of Boo's education to Pat or connection to Pat Sandoval and Joe Shirley and other people Boo is choosing
Hmm.
to associate with. I pray he makes his own decisions and chooses the best to lead to work with him."
Yeah, and that's a great comment. And I know that's a big concern that a lot of people have shared. Um, I did work with the campaigns, and I did have conversations with Mr. Sandoval after the primary, like the night of the last election. We all kind of sat around and talked, and because that camp came over to our camp. And if people don't know, they might, but I was in support of Ethel Branch when she was running. She didn't proceed to the general election, but I was a part of that campaign. And a lot of us that were a part of the campaign, a lot of the campaign managers spoke to one another, the team spoke to one another, especially after the election was called. So, we asked those questions. Our team asked him, how closely is Joe Shirley influencing this campaign? And he said, at the very beginning, we told him that he can't be a part of it, and he said he wasn't going to. And so, and because he was like, I know everyone thinks that he's behind pulling the strings, but the truth is, Boo made this decision on his own. He knows he's going to have to carry the burden of this decision for the next 4 years if he's elected. But also, even if he's not elected, there's consequences for decisions we make, especially for putting yourself in the crosshairs of the Navajo people. And he has, and his family has, and all of the candidates went through that. And so, my concern was also with the educational background and experience. We all know Jonathan Nez has been he'd been a part of tribal politics for a long time. He was a council delegate, he was a vice president, and then he led our nation as president during a pandemic, which, that requires a lot. So he has a lot of experience. He has a lot of experience working with the community. I think he did a great job creating rapport with the Navajo Nation communities, which I think is why he won by a landslide during the primary. But the truth is, I think the Navajo people are ready for new leadership, and that's why um, they voted the way they did. And so it was a pretty close race. I mean, the difference was about 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a little less than 4,000 after all the numbers were tallied. But, as the chapters were reporting, it was going like this for a while. And then the Nigerian campaign kind of started to get farther away. And then they kind of stayed about 4,000 away. And then they finished, having more votes. And so it was fun staying up and watching and just kind of seeing, how the different communities were voting. um so I was thinking about all of that, and I was thinking about the two candidates for the Navajo Nation election. And like I said before, I do respect um President Nez and his wife, and I don't work with them very closely, and that's something that contributed to my decision of, what I've heard about people who have worked with that administration over the past few years. Because just because of the work I'm involved in, not related to Navajo Tea Time, I have had the privilege of working with various people that work with that administration on various levels, including the president and the first lady, in regard to missing and murdered Dinar relatives. That was an initiative I'd been a part of for a number of years at the very beginning, especially because my husband and I wanted to create a database. And that was an idea that we pitched to the First Lady and the president. And, a few forums were started, but a lot of the whole the organizing crew kind of shifted more toward advocacy, because that was really what was needed at the time, and education about the issues across the Navajo Nation, and then forming alliances with different nations across the United States and Canada. And then so it was a little different, but because of that additional work and the volunteerism that I'm involved in, I kind of got to get to know them a little better, but I never really worked super closely with them, side by side. But there are people who I know who have, and how they reported back about what that work relationship was like. Um, it did kind of, it made me second guess, I guess, like, okay, should I remain loyal to the incumbent, or should I vote for new leadership? And my loyalty really was with Ethel Branch and with Justin Jones. Those are the two candidates who I believed were the strongest candidates. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Their values align with mine. When I hear Justin Jones talk, I'm just like, that's what a leader sounds like. That's what a Hastine, the Ani and the Bahi sounds like. I think about how our leaders back in the day, that Hashkeja way of communicating, that was important. And I think a lot of people aren't used to that, and so they were like, he's too harsh, he's mean, and I'm just like, you guys need to grow a thicker skin. Hey, just kidding. but
You
I
can't say
valued
that
that, you know.
nowadays.
I know. And then Ethel Branch, I believe she was the most qualified. She was the most qualified candidate running for president, and I strongly supported her run. And I still believe she could be the first president, female president of the Navajo Nation. But she may choose to do other things, you know. So that's where my alliance is, and I can say that now because the campaign's over. But I did have conversations with both campaigns along the way, with the Neza Beta campaign and with the Nigrin Montoya campaign. Um, and I did tell them, where my support lied, and I did encourage them along the race. And during the last few months of the election, or leading up to the election, I prayed for both, for their safety, just because when you work in tribal politics, it gets really difficult. It gets really dark too. It's exhausting and it's hard. It's one of the hardest things I did this past summer. And so I know how hard it is, and I know how difficult it is, and the attacks that all the different candidates got, their families, their homes, their careers, all the lies that were spread. It was just ugly. And so I prayed for all of them, that they would remain safe, they would remain strong, they would remain healthy. So that's how I chose my candidate. So, and that's how I voted. All those things were determining factors. So I think I spoke enough. So shall we go to the next question?
Yeah. Okay. The next question is, what qualities do you look for in an Atani slash leader? I guess
I
I'll
didn't.
talk.
Mhm.
um, I think I like leaders when they can admit they're wrong or they messed up and are willing to learn and figure out how to correct the mistakes or things that they've done. Um,
Mhm.
to me, that shows that they're honest with themselves, um, and they have their ego in check to be able to do what's right for everyone and not just their own vanity. So being able to say,
Mhm.
yes, I messed this up, and we are figuring out ways to fix these things that happen, like even like with themselves or administratively, you know, instead of saying, oh no, everything's perfect, everything's fine, we did nothing happened, nothing was wrong, we don't think any of these things said or done is wrong. It's like, no, we reflected and maybe we've misspoken or misstepped and we're working to fix that. And that just shows that they're able
Mhm.
to do the work for the people, because I feel like politicians now, it's all about them. It's always like, look at me, I'm doing all this
Mhm.
amazing stuff. I'm awesome. Vote for me,
Mhm.
me, me. It's not like, okay, this,
Mhm.
because like it's actually service for the people that you're representing, and it should be more focused on the work that's being addressed to people that you're serving in your community, in your area.
Mhm.
So when people are too like, I did this and I did that and I don't do anything wrong, I'm like, eh,
Mhm.
I don't trust you as a leader. I don't think that's good leader material if you can't look inward and fix your own mistakes and admit you have mistakes to begin
Mhm.
with.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, because I think that a strong leader should be able to admit when they don't know something and admit when they're wrong. And a strong leader is not supposed to be giving themselves, all of the, like, how I had a conversation about this just yesterday, how like some leaders, they're the first, like they'll pay themselves first, whether it's compliments or money or your naming recognition. They'll pay themselves first before they pay those that help them. And leaders aren't supposed to do that. They're supposed to be there to uplift those around them. They're supposed to nurture leadership in other people. And that's at least my personal perspective of what a leader looks like. And when it comes to an Atani, um, what I look for in an Atani is not just their credentials, as far as like education, not their resume. The resume is important, like I said before, but there's additional things. I look at how they take care of themselves. I look at how healthy they are. Do they do they run? You know what I mean? Like that's something that it's important to me. Are they healthy? Do they care about the health of themselves and their people? What do their relationships look like? What does their parenting style look like? And it doesn't mean like you have to check off different boxes, like, like this is what qualifies this person. It's more a man or a woman. It's just being a human being. And so, like, for example, when Jonathan Nez was running for president, I really did value the fact that he could run an ultra marathon. To me, that mattered because that's something that not a lot of people can do. It requires endurance, it requires self discipline, therefore, self leadership. To train for something like that is meaningful to me. And that's also a part of our culture, you know. There's the running culture that builds that endurance and that mental stability. And there's also that element of hostile, which is like it can also be utilized for healing oneself, cleansing oneself, coming to a clear conclusion as you're participating in this painful, uncomfortable activity like running long distances or climbing mountains or doing these things that are physically taxing. It gives you the ability to strive towards something greater and connect spiritually, often to the mountains, who are our first leaders, to nature, to the elements, and I know Dina believe that and understand that, and I know that a lot of us, not just Dina but other tribes, understand those concepts and those ways. And so for that, that's meaningful to me too. If I see someone who's running and they just have a big old belly and they're not healthy, they don't take care of themselves, or you know what I mean? Like their life's a mess and it's all ego, or they're just kind of like nuts. Like there were some candidates that were kind of unhinged who were running and it was very obvious. And there were some people that you knew were just very gluttonous. They didn't even take care of themselves. And I would look at them and be like, how are you going to take care of the people if you can't even take care of yourself, and so that's how I think about it, and I don't think I'm alone in that. And there's also the concept too of Nabahi. A lot of people think about Nabahi as just a warrior, but Nabahi also brought medicine, they brought healing, they brought balance to their community. They were caretakers of the community. So that's another thing I look at is, how are our leaders taking care of the community? How are they bringing medicine to the people to bring healing and maintain the health of the community? And so I'm not just looking or listening to what they were saying, like during the forums or during interviews, but also looking at their track record. How did they respond when the pandemic hit? And what did they do before the pandemic? How were they caring for their community? Were they caring for their community, or were they just in it for themselves? So those are some of the things that factor into qualities I look for in a leader.
Okay. So, next question is
Okay.
um, how do you feel about the Navajo Nation electing the first ever female vice president? Um, so for me, it's like I was like when I read the question, I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. So it doesn't really register like for me where it's like, oh, male, female. It's like, okay, that's great. What can you do? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I feel like for different people for jobs and things. It's like I'm not like, okay, you're a female who does this, or you're a male who does this. I'm like, no, you're a person who does this. And so when you're like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
female vice president, I'm like, okay, cool. And I feel like more people are excited about the title being appointed to a female um, vice president. But for me, I've always been surrounded by well educated, strong headed women who lead
Mm-hmm.
in the community like my whole life, like my grandmas and my aunts and other ladies in the area. They do things for their community, but they're never given a title. They're never like put on a pedestal like this is one of our native leaders, one of our community leaders. It's like, oh no, you need some help? Ask this lady because she knows people who can help you. So it's always been
Mm-hmm.
like there are leaders in our community who are female, but not most of them get like win a popularity contest, is kind of how
Mm-hmm.
I saw that in a way.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from her being elected as the vice president, it's just like for me, some of these like I said, like the politics and everything, they've kind of turned into popularity contests of who can speak the
Hmm.
best, who can look the best, who can present themselves the best in front of people on a stage. And a lot of, for me, community
Hmm.
work and building the community isn't on a stage. It's connecting with other business people, reaching out and doing hands-on work. And I feel like there's tons of females in our communities who do that and don't get recognized.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at it from two lenses. One of them being the lens of a women and gender studies major. So just the awareness of this, this glass ceiling that people refer to. And what that means is that there's in American society, it's mostly a look at American society, how a lot of women, we work up these levels, right? Being young ladies, moving up the ladder educationally in our careers, as mothers, parents. But we get to this point where they say there's this glass ceiling. And the reason why they call it that is because it's invisible. No one can see it. And you hit that and you can't go past it. And that's what they mean by the glass ceiling, because when it comes to men, oftentimes in America, they can excel. And they're the ones that get to these high levels much easier and more frequently, meaning like, CEO positions, running Fortune 500 companies. Um, if you look at our legislature, you look at Congress, you look at the number of representatives, um, you look at our presidents, and they're all men. Why is that? Or the majority, at least, is they're men. And only recently have women started to, kind of break through that glass ceiling and get those positions where now we have secretaries of state that are women, the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, various representatives from different states. Women are finally being elected into those offices, whereas before the only public office was being the wife of a president or the wife of a senator. And even then, that office wasn't meant for the woman to really push any initiatives. If she didn't want to do anything, she didn't have to. We saw that with Melania Trump. We saw that with other presidents' wives, where they didn't really push any big initiatives if they didn't want to. They would throw parties, they would decorate the tree, they would redecorate the White House. So you look at back in history, and you look at this patriarchal hierarchy that exists, that was adopted from European countries, from monarchies. That's what's influenced American society. And so when they talk about that glass ceiling, that's what they're talking about. And so, as women who live in America, even though we're Native American and we live in our own nations, we're still citizens of the United States, and we're still highly influenced by these functions of society, these societal norms, and through media. And it's ingrained in us from a very young age, especially because a lot of us have been so removed from our cultures. Um, and we know that's a fact, and it's an ugly one that a lot of us don't want to think about or address, but it's the truth of the matter. So I think about it like that, from that lens. I also think about it from the lens of history, Diné history, where Diné Assan Navajo women have always been leaders in their homes and communities, like literally being pillars of society. And when a lot of this Western influence started to encroach on us, through assimilation or systematic assimilation, that was one of the first things that got pulled away from us. Women didn't have the right to vote until many years after men. Even when Native Americans were given the right to vote, at first it was only men. And and this is so different because for us, we've always had a lot of power built into who we are as women, as leaders within our communities and homes. Um, Having the ability to own land, having the ability to engage in commerce, having the ability to just move through society, through different tribes, through trade. And, there's a lot of things that I think were stripped away from us intentionally. And so when I see women breaking through that glass ceiling, when I see women being brave enough to run for office and to take on leadership positions, naturally, like I want like all the firework, all the fireworks to go off because I get really excited about it because to me it's a big deal. It's a big development for us as people because I've never viewed women in my life as being weaker, less capable, or not as smart as others. I've always seen them as leaders, and that's been my norm. And I didn't know how abnormal that was until I went to college. And it wasn't until I was in these classrooms with other women from um, different races and coming from different cultural backgrounds where I realized how much of an advantage we have because that value system is there, but oftentimes it's not acted on, just like in modern day society. And it was groundbreaking for a lot of people, even some of the professors, to learn that, like my parents didn't raise us up as like boys are more important than girls or boys are more capable than girls or girls can't do this. It was more like we were all taught how to cook, clean, work on cars, shoot guns. I mean, like all those things we knew how to do. We did them together as a family for the benefit of the family. And so I think what they wanted to teach us was agency, the ability to survive. And that's a enough value. Our job is to teach our kids how to stand on their own 2 feet. So when I heard about Boo choosing a female running mate, I was like, all right, he's listening. Let's see, let's see what the people say because, you know, as we saw in the primary, the female candidates didn't get as many votes. So I'm honestly really excited. Like in regard to the titles, I'm really excited to address Rochelle Montoya as Madame Vice President. I'm really excited about that because it's just something that I never thought I would say in my lifetime. And I'm really happy to be alive to see it because I just think back to like when I was born and when I was young and how things were structured so differently and what was allowed. And it wasn't in my home where I was told this, but it was out and about where it was always like girls can't do this, girls can't do that. In the media too, it was like, you can't get dirty, you shouldn't be loud, you should only wear a dress. Like the gender roles were so defined, but it was like the what they call the gender binary, where it's only female, like feminine females and masculine males. It was never anything in between. There was never any room for deviation. So I just remember what that was like growing up and that value system that was ingrained in me and really forced upon me and other uh, girls that I know. And so I do hope that, Mrs. Montoya can bring balance to our Navajo Nation government. By electing her, the Navajo people took a big step toward recognizing the value and ability of female leadership. So that's what I'm excited about. And I do believe that a woman will offer a different uh, perspective. And I do believe that representation matters. So it's great that we have I'm really happy that we're going to have a female vice president. I'm really happy that we have more female council delegates just for the sake of representation. I do think that matters. So yeah, so I'm excited.
I think that's where we kind of differ in like her upbringing, where like you were like girls are only doing this and boys can only do this. Like with my mom and her 9 sisters, her dad wanted a son, so he raised all his girls like boys. And so when my
Mhm.
mother had me, she's like, I don't know how to raise a daughter. How do you raise? Okay, you'll be a little tomboy. I don't know how to do girly thing. Like, I don't know how to do girly things, you know. So for us, that wasn't never. It was never that. It was like, okay, you need to learn to take care of yourself. You need to learn to change a tire. You need to do your oil change. You need to do all this for yourself, you know. And so that like I never grew up with only boys do this, only girls do that. That's not how we were
Yeah,
raised.
that's just, I'm just saying that's what I saw in the media. That's what I saw in cartoons. That's what I saw on television. That's what I heard in the church. You know what I mean? So, like I said, in my family, it wasn't like that. It was all about agency, and it wasn't about boys' chores, girls' chores. It was just like, these are things you need to know. And my mom straight up told us, like, number one, if you ever get stranded, you ever have a tire that goes flat, or your car breaks down. I don't want you to be that helpless girl that's on the side of the road, or that helpless woman that doesn't know how to change a tire, doesn't know how to get back on the road, and ends up in a dangerous situation. Like, don't be that stupid. That's what she used to say. Like, don't be that stupid. Like freaking learn how to take care of yourself. Same thing with cooking and cleaning and maintaining a home. It wasn't about, oh, we're going to teach you these things so you can become a wife, or we're going to teach you this so you can be marriage material. No, it was like, you're not going to live under my household for the rest of your life. And you better know how to feed yourself and clean up after yourself. Because if you don't know how to do at least those two things, then I failed as a parent. That's what she would say. And she would get after us all the time. Like you're not, like, she would get after us in a mean way sometimes too. Like, don't be stupid, get up. Like, you're able-bodied, you have a functioning brain, you don't have any disabilities. There's no excuse for you to have a messy room or a messy house, or to not be having food on the table. If I'm not here to do it, then you need to do it. She used to say that all the time. And she would always say, I'm not always going to be here. What are you going to do when I'm gone? And I'm just like, dang, like, she would make us think about that. And it really provided this clear perspective, like, okay, so it wasn't about, girl versus boy or any of that. It was just more about having agency and the ability to care for yourself.
I was just thinking, like, if
Yeah.
my mom gave me that speech, and be like, well, what are you gonna do if I'm not gonna be here? I'd be like, well, I guess I'll just roll over and die. Because that's like my sarcasm comes out when people like talk to me like that, and it's like, I guess I'll just die
I could
then.
never talk like that to my mom. My mom would whip me if I talked to her like that. And she would, like, she had my Chase leather belt. It was always on top of the shelf. And if we like sassed her, oh, she went for that thing. And it's kind of impactful when you get whipped by your Chase belt. You know what I mean?
I mean, like when we were younger, she
So she
used
was
to
just like,
spank us too, but like it's I don't know, it's like a core family trait of ours is like that sarcasm, and it's
mm-hmm,
like when my daughter says things back to me, it's like I can't really be mad at her because that's just how we are. Like
yeah.
I don't know, it's just funny. It's like what are you gonna do if you can't feed yourself? Well, I guess I'll just die then. Bye.
Well, dang, I could never say that. Oh my God. I swear, like,
Cause like one time I was complaining about something. She's like, Kelsey, you're being so dramatic. Stop it. So then like I just threw myself over the couch and just kind of like rolled around and fell on the floor. And she's like, stop it, you're being dramatic. Like, you want to see drama? I'll be dramatic.
oh my gosh, I would have gotten whipped for that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, the next question.
That's so funny.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you that election season is over and why? So one of our commenters answered this too. I think it
Oh,
was
cool. What'd
Internet
they say?
Anonymous. They said, I feel mostly neutral about elections, so probably 5 out of 10. I think it's good that we finally have a woman as a vice president, something long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
And for me, I was like, I'm 1,000. 1 out of 1,000. 1 out of 10, I'm 1,000. Glad that election season is over. We can like focus on our
Mm-hmm.
everyday lives now. I always feel like election season
Mm-hmm.
is like, oh, we're gonna like pause everyone's life and focus on these people trying to win this pageant. Because that's in my head. That's how I feel like elections and those positions are like. They're just pageants. And
Mm-hmm.
like this year, I've been more involved in the elections just because of the work I've been doing with Envision Cameron, and so I have to talk to
Mm-hmm.
leadership, the chapter house about talking with my grant writers, and it's like so I have to talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh, you should talk to this candidate and get them support, have invite them to your meetings and everything. So I was a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
exposed to the election season this year than I'm used to, and I'm kind of glad to it being
Mm-hmm.
over so then people will stop bugging me
Mm-hmm.
about different things. But yeah, so I'm really happy, and I'm waiting for all those candidates to pick up their signs. Like I was coming back from Flagstaff
Mm-hmm.
today, and I'm like, hey, election's over, get your sign. Need to start calling them
Mm-hmm.
out. But
Yeah, you guys need to clean up now.
right?
I know for Ethel's campaign, that was like the first thing we did on week one afterward. We're like, okay, we need to get all of our signs
Thank you.
just because, we didn't want to contribute to the garbage and the littering of our beautiful Navajo Nation, eh?
And Kelsey threw a fit about it, so
Yeah.
now we have
So
to.
yeah, I'm glad it's over too. It was committed so fully to the last campaign. Like I swear to God, my morning started at 6 a.m. and ended at 11 p.m. every single day. It was nonstop. And this is in addition to my job, which is a 40-hour a week job, to Navajo Tea Time, and to all the other board commitments that I have. So it was a lot. Weekends we're going to be doing volunteer work, and just tried to prep them that yeah, sure, you're on board. I just don't have the ability. And it hit our freaking like our pocketbooks too. Like it's expensive to be a part of a campaign, especially when it's like, yeah, I was really sick of getting all these text messages too from like the Democratic and Republican parties. They're like texting me and like bugging me, and I'm just like, I wish you didn't have my phone number. So it was
Right?
annoying. All the different ads. Like, like they were coming up on YouTube videos, they were coming up on like podcasts, like interrupting podcasts. And that's one thing I'm really proud of as far as like I won't go into that. It's past, but um I was gonna say I'm really proud that we ran a really clean, ethical campaign, not focusing on tearing down the other candidates, but just focusing on the mission. I'm really proud of that. I know a lot of other campaigns that didn't do that. But anyways, I
Okay.
saw that Mexico, just like really funny stuff like that. So yeah, that was my favorite thing about election season. But
All
no,
the
I'm just kidding. But
memes. All right.
yeah, I
So,
love the memes. I love our people. They're so funny.
oh, speaking of memes and relevant things, indigenous creatures.
Oh gosh.
I thought it
What
was
about
so
it?
funny how, like, within hours, natives were like pouring out these memes and they were so hilarious. So if you guys can tag us in your favorite indigenous creature meme, um, they just make me laugh. And I thought they were hilarious.
I love Native people.
I
I
know she
swear,
was
we
probably
are the
trying to say
funniest. I just
like
had to put it out there.
indigenous creatives or creators because they were talking
Yeah,
about like the
something.
media and everything and like, oh, we're all just indigenous creatures and something else. And
I know. That was so dumb. But yeah, I was just like, oh shoot, like she slipped up on freaking national television. But yeah, I love our people. I think we are the funniest, most awesome, creative people. Like anything happens. Do you remember when that buffalo attacked that tourist
a couple of
at the
times, a
national
couple of
park?
tourists, yeah.
And then like remember like it like got that lady's pants and like ripped them. And then like a week later, there's like beaded earrings and there's like stickers and there's all these memes like circulating. And this is all across North America. And I was just like, yes, our people are freaking nuts, but I love you guys. Like they just, I don't know. I love how we can, laugh about these things and like, put it into art. I don't know. It's so cool. So, to anyone who made a meme during election season, to anyone that made jewelry, to anyone who beaded something, shout out to you. Because there were a lot of people that stepped up, and that's pretty awesome. Like, for example, from my experience specifically, I have a really close friend who's an artist who I've known for many, many years, who's contributed to, I think, a resurgence of Indigenous hip hop, or even just like seeding it and planting it and tying it to who we are within our own identity, not trying to become or be something we're not, but really uplift our people through hip hop and art. all the elements of hip hop. Anyways, he did some graphic design for one of the candidates, and I was just like, that's what's up. And I saw other artists doing that too, and I just thought that was really cool. I think it's really great that we have so many creatives. So yeah, shout out to all the creatives out there. You guys are awesome. So, all right. So that's it
No, we gotta do the
for election
drawing,
stuff.
remember?
Yeah. So we're wrapping up the election talk. We're excited. Flagstaff, Arizona, super talented. She designed our new logo and we absolutely love it. So for the Western Navajo Fair meet and greet, we ordered some merch so that we could wear sweaters and hand out stickers and stuff and mugs to people who watch who are subscribed to our channel, who appreciate what we're doing here on YouTube, who like the conversation, who want to be a part of the conversation. So we decided that we were going to do a giveaway if we met or if we exceeded 500 subscribers. And we did. So we exceeded 500 subscribers. We put it out to everybody that if they were to leave a comment in the comment section leading up to, was it like the end of October, right? October 31st
It was
or something like that.
I think the deadline was yesterday afternoon.
Okay, yeah.
But it had to
Yeah.
be on
So
one of the October videos.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So Kelsey's kind of been leading this. So we have we have a sweatshirt. We have a sweatshirt to give away. We have a mug bundle to give away, and we have a tumbler to give away. So
Is that's
should
for
we do some?
that's for
No, let's
the
just do those three. Let's do those three. And we're gonna do giveaways in the month of December too. So this is what we're excited about. Well, shall we announce that? What we're gonna do for December real quick?
Okay, so for December there's this trend on Facebook or not Facebook, YouTube called
YouTube.
Vlogmas, where we vlog every day, and then there's also giveaways leading up to Christmas. So me and Adrian decided to try and do a live every Sunday, which then ends with a giveaway. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if you show up on the lives and whatever, I don't know, we'll figure out how to be entered into the giveaways for Vlogmas. But at the end of every live stream, we will do a giveaway. So, yeah.
Yes. Can. So we're happy about that. So it's gonna be fun. We're probably gonna alternate, right? Where Kelsey will do a vlog one day, then I'll do how they kind of start to break, like psychologically. Kelsey, since you've been leading it,
Okay.
or since you've been organizing it. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna pull this up here. Adrian can't see it because it's on my screen, and I'm not sharing my screen with the Zoom. But we'll click the little spinner and see who wins. I just did your first and last initials on your YouTube account. So
Can the
let's.
people on YouTube see it?
Yes, they can see it. You can't.
Okay.
Woohoo! Okay, KB, and KB is. Let's see, where did my mouse go? There it is. Kristen I'm gonna mess up your last name. Kristen Balsaric. I'm gonna like your post. So congratulations,
Is that
Kristen.
Belceric?
Probably Balsaric. Congratulations,
I
you
wonder if that's
won.
Michael Belceric's.
I don't know. So there it
Yay!
is. You won our giveaway. I'm gonna put it in the chat now.
So she's the winner of the Tumblr bundle.
The Tumblr bundle. Are we doing more than one?
So
Oh no.
yeah.
I just closed the
Yeah, let's
thing.
do one for the tumbler, one for the mug, and then the last one will be for the sweater. And when the winner's announced, please send us, the whole point of starting this channel was really to, start engaging in these conversations because it's a little unique angle, that we're coming at it from. We are a little different from other YouTube channels, even native YouTubers. I believe that we offer something different and unique. We often talk about serious things, work wise, things we engage in with our families, things we're dealing with. And it's really been because our viewers ask us those questions. They want to know how we parent, they want to know the kind of work we're engaged in, they're curious about our adventures, what things contribute to our perspective, or how do we, frame our opinions, based on our lived experience. And so for those who enjoy that, or who are interested in that sort of stuff, and who have subscribed and who have shared and who have engaged with us on social media, we're really grateful for you. So
Okay.
thank you, Ashia. Are we ready for the next?
Yes, you're really good at taking up time by talking, Adrian. All right. And to enter in, the cutoff date was yesterday. And Adrian, can you say the word that they had to comment into the one of the October video chats?
Yeah, so we asked people to comment dant, which is like the Navajo word for tea. And so people were posting that in the comment section, and that's how we pulled names. And Kelsey, she wrote down the names of people who had done that, and added them to this spinning wheel so that we can do a random fair, um, what do you call this? Like a random fair
Picker.
raffle
Yeah.
or
Okay.
giveaway.
So I'm gonna spin again. Random picker. And so for this is
The mug bundle.
the mug bundle. Not okay. The first one was the
Yeah.
tumbler bundle. This one's the mug bundle. All right. So KH, and that is Cassidy Hushgon. You won our mug bundle. Okay.
Woo!
And then we'll just remove their initials. So this one is for the sweater, correct? This next
Yes,
one? Okay.
yes,
This next one's for the
yes.
sweater. And that is
Oh,
IA,
these are great chances. Are
which is
you spin it?
Internet Anonymous. Internet
Did you?
Anonymous.
I didn't see it spin.
It did spin.
Oh, okay, there's a delay. All
Yeah,
right,
there's
sorry, I'm looking at it.
your to remind you to send us your information for shipping. So yeah, I don't know if Adrian has any extra.
That there's challenges that a lot of people face. There's active suppression that does go on when it comes to Native communities. I think a lot of us in Arizona know that, because it's happened in the past with the redistrict, the re, the
Redistricting
the
of county
distribution
lines.
lines of the yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so stuff like that happens. But yeah, I just want to encourage you guys to vote, and join us for Vlogmas. It's gonna be fun. And we're gonna be filming this coming weekend. So we're excited because or we're filming tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're filming new episodes tomorrow, and we are planning to do a live session with the Western Navajo Fair crew. So that's Friday. So if you haven't watched it, you can go ahead and check that out. My vlog is going to be live. It's actually uploaded right now, but it's not going to be made together, just having a good time. Like, it makes my heart swell just watching that footage back. And to be able to do the meet and greet with Kelsey, I mean, you'll see in her vlog her perspective on that, but like for real, like it was so awesome, Kelsey. Thank you for doing that with me. I know that we were both a little apprehensive. It was scary because it's scary putting yourself out there for the public, and it's not easy too because there is a lot of criticism and judgment, and people kind of make fun of you. Like my kids make fun of me,
your kids are gonna make fun of you no matter what you do.
but
Just ask my mom. No matter what she does, no matter
they're in
what, we're
high
always
school, so
making
they're
fun
like
of
the
her.
worst. But it was fun, and I just want to say thank you, Kelsey, for just showing up for that. I know it was exhausting, and I mean, and you guys don't know this, but when we were up there during the interview where they were asking us to introduce ourselves, Kelsey was like, I literally feel like jumping off the stage and rolling away. I was like, Kelsey, don't do it. And then when it was time for us to introduce, they gave her the mic first, and she grabbed me and pulled me on this like to the middle of the stage with her. And I was like, "Oh my God." So it was scary, but it was also really cool to meet the other content creators. Kelsey and I don't consider ourselves influencers because we're not really trying to influence anything. We're not pushing products or anything on people. But we do create content, and we do create content for our friends, our family, our people, and to really just, like I said, provide that representation in Canada. And that's in my vlog next
Okay.
week, you guys. I went to Toronto, so check it out. It's gonna be cool, eh?
All right, cool. So yeah, we're at 7:30 and a grandpa all in the Marines. That's why I know it's a birthday. So,
Wow.
all right.
Yeah,
Bye
my
guys.
ex, he was a Marine. His brothers are all Marines. His dad is a Marine. His sister's in the Army. And my dad's uncle was Dan Akey, who served in the Marines also. And my cousin Matt. So all of you guys, love you guys a lot. Thank you for serving. We do appreciate it. And we're praying for you. I'm praying for you. I know that that's the most important thing.
It's
So
definitely
yeah, take
nothing
care, everyone.
it's
Happy
I
Veterans
couldn't
Day.
do that. I couldn't join the service. Like you saw, I can't take
We'll walk you to the door, walk you to your car. Okay, bye everyone. Take care.